Hey guys, it's Alex Powell here, and I'm super excited to be rolling out episode number 2 on the Real Estate Leadership and Legacy podcast. Today I got a very special guest, Alfonso Salemi, one of Canada's rent-to-own experts. He is owner of JAAG Properties along with his partner, and they have just done some sensational and massive stuff when it comes to rent-to-owns. He is one of the leaders of the Rent-to-Own Association of Canada. He is a charismatic speaker and brings forth people, has incredible networking capabilities, and has built some of the biggest networks that Ontario has seen in terms of real estate investing, as well as I love his insight on leadership and what he wants to bring to the table and legacy in its entirety. So I hope you guys really take a lot out of this podcast. Please, as usual, let us know what you think. Comment, subscribe, and like, and we're going to get you guys as much of this content as we possibly can. Hope you enjoy the episode. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I am here with my good pal, Alfonso Salemi. It is so good to see you, and thank you for joining us on the podcast today. How are you?
I am great. The honor is all mine, Alex. Anytime I can sit and chat with you, there's always good stuff happening. So thanks for having me today.
I love it. I love it. So I want to start off by talking a little bit about your journey and your ascension into real estate. So where did you start? How'd you get going? And then we'll kind of dissect parts of it if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely. It feels like yesterday, but it's almost 12, 13 years that real estate investing was put on my radar and then continue to grow and be a focal point. But it was, again, the Rich Dad, Poor Dad book. That was no different than any other real estate investor. And if you haven't read that book, then really are you a real estate investor? That's the joke. But learning and educating different strategies, figuring out, taking classes, paying thousands of dollars for that, education, that background, continuing to learn, and then sticking with, a specific strategy of rent to own, because that's the one that spoke with me, the most passionate about, done other projects, done other things. But to me, it's the feel good of helping people, of making a good return on your investment and bringing positive things to the community. So That's what I'm excited about, that journey, sharing that and hearing the different ones that we're going to talk about today.
No, for sure. I really like the rent to own strategy, and for that scenario specific, you kind of help the masses. Because rent to own helps the tenant buyer, it helps the owners, and helps yourself as well as the investors, right? So it's actually like one of the strategies that I find is tremendously like a win-win-win across the board. So it's pretty awesome.
It does. It covers the tenant buyers that that can't qualify, are real estate investors that want to own real estate but don't want to manage and do the crazy things that you do, right, in properties.
Yeah.
And sometimes terrifies me included, right? And then all the professionals that are involved in the actual transacting of real estate, realtors, mortgage brokers, lawyers, accountants, all the appraisers, inspectors, right? Insurance, all the different aspects that create a deal. There's something happening, right, and growing and pushing towards.
For sure.
That. So,
in like 30 seconds or less, can you explain to the viewers what is rent to own?
Rental. So bottom line, a family, an individual can't qualify for conventional financing. Mm-hmm. We take a look at them, underwrite them, provide them an opportunity and a budget, and say, hey, we'll buy a home for you today. You're going to have to work on your income, your down payment, your credit, so that you can be able to buy it in 3 years from now. And when I say we, us, along with joint venture partners, buy those properties.
Amazing. So now you can kind of see how that can break down to be a massive win for somebody who, in theory, can't get into the housing market, doesn't know how to, doesn't have the credit, doesn't have the money, doesn't have whatever, and you're like a conduit between them effectively achieving home ownership, which is awesome.
Absolutely.
Meanwhile, you're making money and you're making investors money who are partnering with you.
Home ownership and training program.
Yeah.
We're the personal trainers that create that opportunity. Yeah.
So when did JAAG start?
Incorporated in November of 2014, so just celebrating 9 years in business. So I took those classes. Yeah, like I said, probably 4 years before. Mm-hmm. I read the book and started taking that education, and then met Adam, my business partner, and started rent to own JAAG.
Amazing. Yeah. So on that, let's actually rewind a little bit. What influenced you to even start looking into real estate in itself? Why? Like, what? You read the book. I get it. the Rich Dad Poor Dad. If you guys haven't read the Rich Dad Poor Dad book, read the Rich
Yeah.
Dad Poor Dad book. It's awesome. But what inspired you to even pick that book up?
You know what? I think it was, it was gifted to me by a friend, and that had some real estate success. I had known like builders in real estate, or known real estate agents, right? So that's all I knew about real estate, but this was more about the investing. For me, I think the dream was that passive, right? That passive. But it's anything but when you're running a business, right? So, but I think it's about that long term. That's all the other part as well too. Because if you have other real estate investments, and you're holding on to property for that long term, there's equity, there's gain, there's always a need for someone to live somewhere, right?
Mhm.
You're owning, or you're renting, or you're on that path to ownership. So I think that's what it was. It wasn't like a fad or a trend, or like
Yeah.
a .com type boom thing, right? And it was just that something that was like tangible. It was there. You have to live somewhere, right? Most of the populated world lives somewhere, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's what I think drew me to it, and the stability of it, probably.
It's interesting when these opportunities present themselves. It's almost like it's like a light bulb kind of goes off, and then you don't really realize the work and the effort that goes into it. It's just that the promise of something greater than what is, like let's say the 9 to 5, let's call it that, right?
Yeah.
And it's pretty impressive, especially in your case, what you guys have managed to achieve. Now, having started from going to that one seminar or talking to that one person in a networking event that says, you can do it. You can go ahead and, you can apply yourself and you will become successful if you do it right. So I think huge hats off to you guys in the company and to JAAG. If you guys haven't heard of JAAG Properties before, you guys should check them out. You guys are probably one of the biggest rent-to-own companies in all of Canada, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Well, I think we're one of the most helpful. That we do it the right way.
Yeah.
We help as many people as we can. We put the safeguards in place so that tenant buyers win, our joint venture partners win, our professionals win. And it's not about really how many we do or how big we are, but it's how successful, right? Rather be 1 out of 1 than 0 out of 100, right?
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
And we continue to grow and measure that growth in different ways of the impact that we're making, right? So,
Yeah.
It's rewarding, right? And to be even talked about that, I do. Most people either confuse me by the name of the company or just a rent-to-own guy, right? So, yeah, for sure. And doing it this long and continuing to do it in a positive way, you'd hope, there's some some recognition or some people that understand or know that about that. So,
well, I think that, and this is actually a good kind of segue too, is that when I consider leadership, or when I consider whether you're a leader to a one person, or you're a leader to an organization that you built, or a leader to a community, I think you've hit the nail on the head for just about all of those. The way I've always seen you, and I've seen you interact, I think that is one of the key components to being successful, is that truth that you find within yourself, is that if you are coming at it from an element of being a service person. I am of service to the masses. If you come from contribution, contributing to someone's life, whether it be the tenant owner, the investor, to your own family, to your staff, I think that if you have this enclosed mindset or closed mentality, it will never work. And that's what I think scarcity actually kills that. So when you come from that abundance, it clears the road, and all of a sudden you're like, holy smokes, I got a highway I can run down.
Yeah. I think to my grandfather and even to my dad it's contribution, right? Mm-hmm. It's contributing to something. Whether you're in a place, sometimes I never been to one. That'd be cool to see, but like an NHL All-Star game, mm-hmm. right? Where it's the All-Star game. It's the best players of all the league on there, right? So everybody's the best player on their team. Right, so they're at the All-Star game. But now when they're playing on that team, it's like, okay, who's better at that? Who's going to take the face-off in that important part? Who is that? So you're contributing to that part. So maybe a guy that's a first-line center on his team at the All-Star game is like back-checking, or killing penalties or whatever the thing is in a lower position to contribute to the overall win, right? So you got to recognize strengths, know weaknesses, and put people in places where they can contribute, where they don't feel that if I share this, then someone's going to be better than me and do it better. It's going to be like, great, show me how. Let's do it together. Let's grow and even help more if it's something positive that we can bring to the world, right?
For sure. So where do you envision your organization going? What's your idea in terms of how do you help more people?
Yeah, first of all, it's awareness. So just conversations like this where you're so kind to introduce me to the people in your network,
For sure.
amongst trades, amongst networks of people, right? That's what friendship is about, is growing that and continuing to grow. So the awareness that this is possible is the first thing. So
Yeah.
that's how we continue to grow it, putting it in the eyes and in front of mortgage brokers, banks, big people, governments that maybe can solve housing problems through this.
Yes.
So to me,
Yes.
that's something that I think is, it's not a tomorrow goal, but as the conversation continues to happen, people become more aware of it and see it as it is. It is an actual solution, because I've seen it like this for 10 plus years, right? Some people have negative connotations from 20 years ago, and somebody heard that it went wrong, but meeting in the middle and talking about, okay, what are the safeguards? What are the right things to do? So that's how we help more people, is put it in front of more people that have, deeper pockets, bigger decisions to make, that can help the masses, right? That more than I can do on my own or our team can do, right?
Yeah, no, for sure. So we're recording this in 2023 November. What's going on with the market right now, and specifically within the strategy? So obviously we know that interest rates are a little higher right now. The market has slowed down. There's a little bit more inventory on the market. People are holding steadfast on prices. How is that affecting you guys on the rental side?
Yeah, I think the qualification, the bar got up just a little bit higher, right? So with interest rates higher, all the money that is being leveraged to buy property, to qualify for real estate, has gotten more expensive. So I think the cost of poker, as they say, has gone up, right? Of owning real estate. It is definitely properties are sitting a lot longer. So the clients that are maybe just shy of that number are willing to maybe wait it out, keep negotiating. Hey, it's been 25 days. Hey, it's been 30 days. It's been 40 days. Say, hey, maybe we can get to that number. So they're holding on. So they have a little bit more hope, right? Because now it's more of a long term. The rates are going to do what they're going to do. They go up and down. They move around. We have to adjust. And there's the cost of owning it, of leveraging not your own. If you don't have the capital to buy it, there is a cost to it. 1% is not a strategy, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we've always stress tested our clients, our tenant buyers, even before there was a stress test, to make sure that they were going to be able to qualify, setting that bar. And sometimes it's not the best thing to hear, but it's putting them in a place of to succeed. So we still want to maintain those parameters. Is it wide open as it used to be? Probably not, but it is just more patience, I think, now in this type of market, and people are kind of being a little bit more hesitant and taking longer to make decisions on both sides.
I always thought the rent-to-own strategy is uniquely good in this particular environment because property values are suppressed because of the higher interest rates. There's uncertainty in the market. There's like unrest, seemingly.
Mm-hmm.
Rent-to-owns, you can kind of lock in your future value. Mm-hmm. And as long as you got a good tenant buyer who's willing to commit to their obligations, you have a good investor. I think that you're protected on a lot more fronts than you would be from a typical real estate strategy. Like, for example, flips. We do a lot of flips. On a dime, the market can suppress, and then your property's sitting, and you're like, I'm sitting on, I'm bearing interest. I'm accruing interest on this thing. I got to offload it, right? So I just, from that standpoint, the strategy actually makes a lot of sense in today's market. I don't know if you agree.
I definitely would agree, because it's stability. It's stability for, if you're looking at it from a real estate investor standpoint, stability from a tenant buyer standpoint, that you have that in that time frame of that. What the purchase price is going to be at the end. You know what you're going to be selling it for. You've locked in your mortgage as the investor. You know what your cash flow is going to be for that period of time. And you have a buyer already that wants to live there, is living there, she's living there, family's there that wants to buy that house at the end, is working towards that, right? Yeah. So, that's what drew me to it. There's all different types of real estate investing or investing in general. And it excites me to just know that that's
honestly, honestly what I love about it the most is that it's like you get different sports in this, or different, I don't even know what it is. It's like Mario Party or something like that. You can have different activities within the same game. The game is real estate. Yeah. You can choose to put your flavor in this one or try this one.
Absolutely. It's all our journeys. 100%. All our journeys are different and travel across. And you have to get little pieces from different people that you meet in your life, right? And to get to that experience and share that. And, and that's what thinking. It's surreal to think 9 years we have actually incorporated of doing something that long, and with anything, right? Like if I wanted to be a bodybuilder 9 years ago, would I just be completely jacked? I don't know, right? I hope so.
I think you already are.
Yeah, but just that, it's I don't want to say grind because that underplays it, but
Grit.
the grit, the dedication towards it, just the persistence maybe is probably a better word for it. But
honestly, I would take grit over intellect any day. I'm not the I would say like in school, like I was never the most studious. I was never like an A plus plus student. It took a long time for me to get certain things into my brain, especially in university. Man, I remember just locking myself in a room and having to really grind it out. Where I had buddies who were like, you could knock out those calculus problems, no issues. But when it comes to grit, I'm glad I'm like someone who just will grind. And I think that at the end of the day, that done is better than perfect is, it can take you far. It really is. People underestimate what they can do in 1 year, and then they overestimate what they can do in 5. Or sorry, vice versa. People overestimate what they can do in 1 year, and they underestimate what they can do in 5. Yeah. So it's brilliant stuff. But I want to change the conversation towards leadership a little bit. So, I think a lot of the people that would probably tune in may already know you from my network. We have a lot of close friends together, and through our network, we've been close friends. Like you've held my children for sake. But I think that it's very cool to see how impactful you have been to our network and to our community in terms of a real estate investor as well as a leader. So, it doesn't matter if it's across different networking groups. You've managed to pull people in. You're like a preacher who can just bring in the crowds, but it's in a good way. You inspire others, and you're easy to listen to. I think you have a very warm demeanor about yourself. You give people the time of the day. So whether it's and I've seen you do it at Investor, some person who's never bought a property, you'll sit there, you give them just as much time as you will the guy who maybe you're looking to chat with or network with. And I think that's it's a very good quality in a person. And I think that's also led to some of your success. But talk to me a little bit about how you see leadership.
Yeah, it's I think what we were kind of talking a little bit about before is just like is being a servant, is being a contributor, of providing some value or knowledge to anybody that wants it or is interested in it, right? Someone that's not, doesn't matter how much you preach or you say it will fall on deaf ears, right? Mm-hmm. That if it's not for them, if it's not their flavor. So people that I try to make as many connections as I can, because the backgrounds of different people, how they've gotten to where they are in that moment that I'm meeting them, and what's inspiring them, what they want to do, why they're there at that event, or what's challenging them in their day-to-day. And then at that point, it's like, hey, can we intersect? When they say luck is knowledge and an opportunity, right? That's kind of the intersection that makes luck, right? Because if I know something like rent to own, and I just happen to be on a flight with somebody that says, I have billions of dollars and I just want to do rent to owns investments, well, that's my knowledge, the opportunity in that intersection, right? So I think it's bringing that and saying, okay, well, what can I do to help you in your life, your business? What are things that I can offer? What are things that you offer or that you want, that you enjoy doing, that you want to bring to value of people, that you're an expert in, and then just sharing that with people, right? So mm-hmm. leading yourself in that way, I think is the first thing, is just goes from there. Some people you won't connect with, and it's okay, because there's different goals, different timings, they have different aspirations, or rent to own, because that was the thing, the introduction, like, no, I don't want to talk about that. Okay, great, that's okay, right? But there's still, we're all humans at the end of the day, right? So there's all different stories, and that's what I think it is bringing people in there and telling as many stories, because we're all different, we're all superheroes in our own way, and how we can help and contribute and bring positivity, because it's easy to be negative.
That's actually a very good point, the storytelling component. I find that even for us, like a lot of the ways I've managed to connect really well with people is through stories, or through creating scenarios or illustrating scenarios to them of experiences I've had and things like that. But in terms of when you're talking to people and you're trying to inspire action out of them, I find that good leaders are not just role models, because we know a lot of leaders out there. However, good leaders also inspire action. And especially in things like real estate investing, it's very important. Like, it's the action takers that end up succeeding, even if it's not perfect the first time around, which it barely ever is.
Nothing's perfect.
Totally. It's
Yeah.
it's about someone who kind of plugs their nose, closes their eyes, and falls into the water, and then you got to sink or swim. And I think that I find a lot of people it's that first initial plunge, and often it takes a conversation with someone like yourself to be like, you can do it. What do you find, helps people get over that kind of barrier?
I think it's meeting them where they're at, right? Because if I don't know, let's pick a place in the world that you would go to, or that kind of a back way to get to the beach because you went to that hotel, and I've gone there 100 times and I know the exact way on how to get there, but you've never been there before and you're scared, you don't know the language, it's dark, all these different things, but I've crossed it hundreds of times, thousands of times, whatever that is, whatever that experience is. And it's taking step by step, is saying, well, here, first it goes like this. And I can't exactly tell you how it goes. It might be a little bit challenging. Sometimes it goes that way there. We're going to have to see what we can get. And people have to be able to accept, okay, is that enough for me to move forward? Is that enough for me to take that next step, to continue on in that journey and take that next route? So it's providing them the knowledge that they need in that moment. They need to make the decision themselves. I think a lot of people know the movie, that Inception, right? That movie where they incepting that idea. And all it is planting a seed. If I plant the seed of rent to own, of real estate investing, of, whatever we're talking about, you have to nurture it. You have to grow it. If you don't give it light or give it attention or time in your life, then it's not going to be something that's important to you. If I'm a fitness coach, and again, right, and I'm planting that seed of healthy diet and working out and all that kind of stuff, that's the seed. Here's all the tools that you need to cultivate it. But if you're not actually putting in the work and doing it and achieving that, then you're not gonna give any attention. It's not gonna grow, right? So it's that plant, right? Like as a garden analogy, if you will, right? So I think that's what it is. It's inspiring that if here it is, here's the opportunity. You have to work it to see if it's going to be the thing for you.
I love that Inception analogy because I used to at my old job when I had my 9 to 5, we did training on. And we were part of this Future Leaders program. It was actually incredible training at the time. But I was a young guy, and it was all surrounding how to manage up. So if you had a manager and you knew that there was a right thing that you should do, how do you convey your idea to your manager who's actually supposed to be the one giving you direction? Mm-hmm. And they applied this whole Inception idea. They called it the hook. Okay. Because the idea was you kind of wanted to come in behind a person and kind of have them tell it to you out of their mouth. But by implementing certain questions and walking them down a sequence, you can get to kind of a final result of them actually kind of giving you the idea. And then if you're, at the end of the day, you can be like, that's perfect. That's exactly what I think we should do too. I'll get right on that,
Well, and it's them seeing it and believing it as well too, though, right? Because somebody could coach, I don't know, you and I in our squash forehand, right? But if we don't believe we can actually do it, it has to come from us. So whether it's the hook, the Inception, it's working that, not believing it, trying it, practicing it to a certain point where you do it scared. You do it unsure. There's nothing that, right? And 100%. You have to take the step, right?
So, 100%. It's there's that old saying that telling isn't selling, right? And I think that I've seen you talk to people, and I think that someone would obviously say, from looking at you and seeing your interaction with somebody, like, this guy could probably sell ice to an Eskimo. But I don't think you sell. You just ask very pointed questions. And to the point where a person's inspired and percolating, because it's like, you're kind of almost leading them down a path of like, you obviously know what their goals are, but they just don't know how to get there. And by a sequence of questions, you can lead a person to get to a conclusion where they feel contributed as to what the conclusion was, because they've now answered their own question that you've just helped them with. And I think it's a very, you've done it to me a couple of times, I'll be honest with you. But it's good. It's very good.
I've never heard it put that way or described.
But you can kind of see that right now, right? You can kind of see how that outlay. And when you're asking a person decent questions, I know, so Alfonso and I hang out often. We play tennis. Actually, you whip my ass in tennis all the time.
But you whip my ass in squash. So.
There we go. Yeah. But it's, even us, during our breaks or whatever, we ask each other questions to challenge each other as to our current methodology of thinking. Yeah. And the point is to almost break the trajectory, because it gives perspective. And as long as the person is breaking it in a good way, I think it's fantastic, because it's what creates growth.
Well, it's such a benefit, because I don't have all the knowledge and experiences that you have. You don't have all the knowledge and experiences that I do. We've interacted and shared mutual experiences, and we probably gained different things out of it, right? And grew in different ways. So as long as you can contribute and someone's bringing that out of you and saying, okay, how can I get better? How can I think differently? Or getting out of that, because it is a constant flow. It's if you get stuck in whether it's a rut or a high or a different way, then it's your challenge to move forward. I think that's a human dynamic, right? It's continuing to grow, because if we don't, like again, seasons change, things happen, nothing is the same. That's the only thing that actually stays the same is changing.
Yeah.
Right. So
the only thing that's consistent is inconsistency.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's consistent inconsistency.
Yeah, for sure. But anyway, I think that's a wrap. It's a perfect place to end it. Thank you so much for coming online, and I really appreciate your foresight and your qualities that you always bring. And I'm very grateful to be your friend.
Back at you. Thanks, man.
All right, thanks guys for joining me on today's episode of the Real Estate Leadership and Legacy Podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and please check out some of our other videos. We've got an abundance out there. We've got a lot of great insight and information, and we'll see you guys on the next one.